welcome everyone. Today's topic is going to be about subjects that you should have learned in school, but you didn't. So, I guess information that you should have been taught at school, but you weren't. So, I have a whole list of topics here. Actually, I have 15, but we're only going to concentrate on only five topics today. There are a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff that we should have learned in school, but we didn't. And Hasmik here was bringing up two subjects that which I agree with, that kids they need to learn to be more respectful toward each other, and also have more empathy toward each other, and really, learn how to love themselves. So that's definitely very important. I will say from my own experience, since I have three children in a public school system, I have a 13-year-old who is in eighth grade. I have a 10-year-old who is in fifth grade, and I have an 8-year-old who is in a second grade. And I will say that at least in our district, which is in Westchester County, New York, I will say that they are definitely trying to help children to be more social and more empathetic toward each other. They have this conflict resolution wheel. It has this little, I forget, it's like a toad, like a little character. And there's like different options for kids. Next time, maybe we'll show it to you guys, for them to deal with, problems and conflicts, and then one of them is to walk away. The other one is to find a common ground, and so on and so forth. So I would say that growing up in Armenia, definitely there was no topic that we learned, or it was no like a curriculum about teaching children about things like that. But in the United States today, there is a push towards helping children to be a little bit more tolerant of each other. Of course, we can always do more, but Hasmik Jan, that's a very, very, very good point. And I think every school is different, every school district is different, even every state is different, and every country is different. I'm going to go with my own list. And like I said, I have a few, but let's start with the first one. I don't think in schools they really do a good enough job to teach people about personal finance. And what do I mean by that? Kids come out of school, they don't know how to use credit cards, they've never done budgeting, they don't even know what budgeting is. And unfortunately, I see this in life, even adults, don't really know how to do budgeting. So I'm just curious to know, by show of hands, how many people do budgeting in their life, in their daily, monthly, annual life today, now, as adults? By show of hands, how many do budgeting? Anyone?
What define budgeting? Do you mean like writing it down, or?
Basically figuring out when you are, you go to the mall, and then you went to get your iPhone fixed at the mall, and then you're walking towards the iPhone store, the Apple store, and then you see this shiny little beautiful boutique, and they have a 50% off sale on some beautiful bag for women.
So it's a mental budgeting. You're talking about a mental instead of
both, right? It's mental and actual, because how do you know mentally, how do you know if you can afford something or not, right? So there has to be some sort of budgeting for you to know. As I'm walking toward the Apple store to get my iPhone fixed, and I see this gorgeous, beautiful bag, and it says 50% off, clearance sale, whatever it is. And I'm like eyeing on it. So how do you know if you should buy it or not, or you can even afford to buy it or not?
Well, a bigger question would be, how do you budget? When I was in my first apartment, I had to be very careful because money was scarce. And so I would use the envelope system. So obviously the rent was first, and then, some other necessities. And then there was a savings envelope that I could, go into if I was going to do something big, but it had to be planned.
As a financial planner, when I work with people or families and we do budgeting, first of all, most people underestimate their expenses. They always think they spend less than they actually do. And then once we sit down and actually put it down on either on an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of a written format, it's really helpful to see on a monthly or annual basis how much money is coming in and how much money is leaving your bank account, and get an idea you can, annualize it, or you can put it on a monthly and say, okay, well, every month I have extra money of X dollars that I can spend. So if I do decide I want to buy something that wasn't in my plan, I can just mentally make my quick calculation. If I have a $500 budget for splurging on something unexpected, then I can make a decision. Do I want to get this, and it's okay or not okay? So budgeting is all about having a plan, being prepared, knowing, what the end result is going to be, so that you're not surprised at the end of the year. So that's what budgeting really is. Well, again, just to bring up another very important point, if they're not teaching about budgeting in schools, and adults just aren't in a habit of doing budgeting. And not that I'm saying that we have to do budgeting. I'm just saying to be aware of it. Even it's just even once a year, you sit down and you look your entire, when you're doing your tax returns, for example, that's really a very, very telling sign. When you're doing your tax returns and you're forced to look at your, your income and your expenses. Again, last time we talked about mistakes, and what was the biggest mistake that I said that's my favorite mistake that I don't want anybody doing? Does anybody remember what was the biggest mistake that we talked about last time that no one should be doing? Pasnik, do you remember?
Spending more than what we earn.
Correct. Spending more than you earn. So that is really the most important thing. So making sure that you're under control. Your spending is under control. So if I'm making, I don't know, $100,000 a year, and I'm spending $60,000 a year, I'm in good shape, because there's money going in toward my retirement accounts and savings and so on. But if I'm making $500,000 a year, but I'm spending $600,000 a year, oh boy, I'm in a lot of trouble, right? Because I'm spending more than I'm making.